Our next guest is Kalissa Ngozi, a mental health professional and professor at Mohawk College. Before we start on today's topic, I've got some congratulations to wish you. So first of all, second place at Speaker Slam.
Thank you. I'm quite excited about it.
And also the award from the RBC Diamond Gala.
Yes.
A big honor. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I was shocked when they sent me the email and let me know that I had been nominated and chosen. It was for my work the past 2 decades in mental health and in community. So it was super exciting. It was at the Fairmont in Toronto. A lot of networking, a lot of greatness. It was awesome.
March 21st, the day to end racial discrimination.
Yes.
Let's talk about that because, I mean, a lot of your focus is working with youth and working with them on a psychological basis and helping them with some of their mental health problems. What are some of the mental health problems that racial discrimination bring about?
Absolutely. It's that extra layer that we often forget about, right? There's a lot of Black individual youth that are suffering, and that extra layer comes with anxiety, depression, lack of self-worth, and imposter syndrome. Right? So there's a lot of pieces with these youth that they're struggling and they don't know where they belong. They don't know where they fit. Another piece is advocacy, right? Like, why am I not seeing people in places of power that look like me? So again, that's where imposter syndrome comes. If I don't look like the person that's behind the screen or that's teaching me, am I going to be able to amount to anything? Am I going to be worth something? And I'm really working hard with colleagues and other people in the profession to try and shatter that stigma. It's important.
What are some of the things that you do to help these young people to get through these?
Absolutely. So I am a motivational speaker by trade as well. So, some of the topics that I bring up are my own childhood, what it was like being a Black youth raised by white family.
You have a very interesting childhood that way.
I do, yeah. So my parents are white, love them to death, great people. They did a fantastic job, I think, at raising me.
So do I.
But the key piece for me was that they always made sure to integrate that Black culture because they saw it. They saw that we don't want our daughter to lose that because this is a piece of who she is. So they're actually the ones that encouraged me to find my biological family because they knew as much as they could show me the children's books, as much as they could bring me to festivals, actually owning my truth and embracing my journey and meeting people that look like me was an important part of my story.
Did they become a part of that Black community in a way?
Yeah, they kind of did. Yeah, they were embraced because people are like, oh, who are these white people and why do they have a Black little girl? But they embraced it. They embraced the culture. They love it. And they made sure that my brother and I were a part of that community.
A lot of what you talk about is creating an inclusive community. How can that be done?
Well, I think by recognizing that even though we're in 2024, there's still a problem. We're still talking about racial divide. We're still talking about us versus them, and I want to stop that conversation. It doesn't need to be one against the other. We need to be allies. We need to be understanding. I know the government is starting to talk about bringing in programming into high schools about Black history. I think that's fantastic. I would like to see it across the board. Let's start with JK. Let them know who Harriet Tubman was. Let them know who these important figures in our history are. Did you know that part of the Underground Railroad was actually in St. Catharines?
Yes.
Not a lot of people know that, which is wild. I want these kids, not just Niagara, but all over. And not just Black kids, white kids, Puerto Rican, Asian, everyone across the board.
I think it's also important that these kids see current role models doing great things. Someone like yourself, someone like Michel Jean.
Absolutely.
These kinds of people who have, been successful.
Absolutely. One of the things with my work at Mohawk College as a professor, I often have Black students that'll come to me and they'll say, you know what, professor, to see you at the front of the classroom gives me hope. And honestly, I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't. I've been there for about 6 years. And to hear that, it's encouraging, but it's also a little sad that we're still in this space and time where seeing a woman of color as a professor is an anomaly.
Well, I've had this discussion with other people too, where, I was a teacher, a high school teacher for 30 years, 5 different schools. I don't think I ever worked with a Black colleague. So any Black student that I had did not have, in those 4 years or 5 years of high school, a Black role model in front of a classroom.
And how sad is that, really?
It's very sad.
Yeah, so I think that we're starting to see that if we put more people of color in the classroom, and not just color, all racially different types of cultures, these kids can start to see themselves and they work towards positive change.
How important is March 21st as this day to recognize that racial discrimination still exists?
Absolutely. I think it's important because as a culture, we're recognizing that yes, we do want to be inclusive, but we also need to make sure that we're paying attention to the importance of Black culture, bringing it into society, and not just one day. One day is great, but I want it across the board.
Calissa, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this subject.
Thank you for having me.